The National Electrical Code, or NEC, does address the installation of receptacles for appliances in various articles. Article 404 pertains to appliances in general, and Section 404.10 specifically states that appliances shall be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. This is a fundamental requirement emphasizing adherence to the appliance manufacturer's guidelines for safe and proper installation. Article 422 covers appliances that are motor-operated. Section 422.13b addresses the installation of receptacles in specific locations. It states that receptacles shall not be installed in bays or other compartments of switchboards, panel boards, or control assemblies. This prohibition aims to prevent unintended connections or hazards within these critical electrical enclosures. However, there is an exception to this rule. Receptacles that are accessible for connecting portable motor-driven appliances shall be permitted for certain commercial or industrial applications. This exception acknowledges the need for convenient power access for specific equipment in these settings, provided that the receptacles are readily accessible. Article 450 focuses on transformers and transformer volts. Section 450.45 addresses receptacles on transformer volts. It states the receptacle shall be installed only outside the vault and shall not be connected in parallel. This restriction is intended to maintain the integrity and safety of the transformer vault environment. Regarding the specific question of installing receptacles inside cabinets for commercial applications, the NEC does not provide a direct, explicit answer. However, the exception in Section 422.13b offers some guidance. It suggests that receptacles may be installed in bays or compartments of switchboards, panel boards, or control assemblies for certain commercial or industrial applications, provided that they are accessible for connecting portable motor-driven appliances. This implies that if the cabinet in question can be considered a compartment of a switchboard, panel board, or control assembly, and if the receptacle is intended for use with portable motor-driven appliances and is readily accessible, then such an installation may be permissible under the NEC. It is crucial to understand the intent and scope of the NEC provisions and their applicability to the specific installation scenario. Furthermore, local codes and regulations may impose additional requirements or restrictions that must be considered. Therefore, it is always advisable to consult with local authorities and qualified electrical inspectors to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and regulations before installing receptacles inside cabinets for commercial applications. Let's delve deeper into the implications of these NEC sections and consider various factors that influence the permissibility and safety of installing receptacles inside cabinets. Firstly, the definition of cabinet itself is important. In the context of electrical installations, a cabinet typically refers to an enclosure designed for surface mounting and containing electrical components such as switches, circuit breakers, or control devices. The NEC does not provide a specific definition of cabinet, so it's essential to consider the intended use and construction of the enclosure in question. Secondly, the accessibility of the receptacle is a critical factor. Section 422.13b emphasizes that receptacles installed in compartments of switchboards, panel boards, or control assemblies must be accessible for connecting portable motor-driven appliances. This means that the receptacle should be readily reachable without requiring disassembly of the cabinet or removal of other components. The purpose of this requirement is to ensure that users can easily connect and disconnect appliances without exposing themselves to electrical hazards. Thirdly, the type of appliances intended to be connected to the receptacle must be considered. Section 422.13b specifically refers to portable motor-driven appliances. This suggests that the receptacle is intended for use with appliances that have motors and are designed to be moved from one location to another. Examples of such appliances include power tools, portable fans, and small machinery. The receptacle should be appropriately rated for the voltage and current requirements of the intended appliances. Fourthly, the location of the cabinet within the commercial or industrial facility is relevant. The exception in Section 422.13b applies to certain commercial or industrial applications. This implies that the specific nature of the business or industry may influence the permissibility of installing receptacles inside cabinets. For example, a manufacturing facility may have a greater need for such receptacles than an office building. Fifthly, the overall safety of the installation is paramount. The NEC emphasizes the importance of protecting against electrical hazards such as shock, fire, and arc flash. When installing receptacles inside cabinets, it's essential to ensure that the wiring is properly insulated and protected, that the receptacle is securely mounted, and that the cabinet is properly grounded. It's also important to consider the potential for exposure to moisture, dust, or other environmental factors that could compromise the safety of the installation. Sixthly, the labeling of the cabinet and receptacle is important. The NEC requires that electrical equipment be properly labeled to indicate its voltage, current rating, and other relevant information. When installing receptacles inside cabinets, it's advisable to label the cabinet to indicate the presence of the receptacle and its intended use. The receptacle itself should also be labeled with its voltage and current rating. Seventhly, the documentation of the installation is crucial. It's important to maintain accurate records of all electrical work performed, including the installation of receptacles inside cabinets. These records should include the location of the receptacles, the wiring methods used, the ratings of the receptacles, and any other relevant information. This documentation can be helpful for future maintenance, troubleshooting, and inspections. Eighthly, the inspection and testing of the installation are essential. Before placing the receptacles into service, it's important to have the installation inspected and tested by a qualified electrical inspector. The inspector will verify that the installation complies with all applicable codes and regulations and that it is safe for use. Testing should include verifying the grounding, insulation resistance, and polarity of the receptacles. Ninthly, the maintenance of the installation is important. Receptacles inside cabinets should be inspected periodically to ensure that they are in good condition and that they are functioning properly. Any damaged or worn receptacle should be replaced promptly. It's also important to keep the cabinets clean and free of debris. Tenthly, the training of personnel is essential. Employees who will be using the receptacles inside cabinets should be properly trained in the safe and proper use of electrical equipment. This training should include instruction on how to identify and avoid electrical hazards, how to connect and disconnect appliances safely, and how to report any electrical problems. In addition to these considerations, it's important to be aware of other NEC articles that may be relevant to the installation of receptacles inside cabinets. For example, Article 314 addresses outlet boxes, conduit bodies, and fittings. This article provides requirements for the installation of boxes and fittings used to support and protect electrical conductors. Article 406 addresses receptacles, cord connectors, and attachment plugs. This article provides requirements for the construction, installation, and use of receptacles and related devices. Article 250 addresses grounding and bonding. This article provides requirements for grounding electrical systems and equipment to protect against electrical shock and fire hazards. Article 110 addresses requirements for electrical installations in general. This article includes requirements for working space, access, and guarding of electrical equipment. It is crucial to consult with local authorities and qualified electrical professionals to ensure that any installation of receptacles inside cabinets complies with all applicable codes, standards, and regulations. This includes verifying the interpretation and application of the NEC and any local amendment or variations. Remember, the NEC is a comprehensive document and its application can be complex. Consulting with qualified experts and adhering to all applicable codes and regulations are essential for ensuring the safety and compliance of any electrical installation. Now let's consider specific scenarios and examples to illustrate the application of these principles. Scenario 1: a commercial kitchen. In a commercial kitchen, receptacles may be needed inside cabinets to power small appliances such as blenders, food processors, or warming ovens. In this case, the exception in section 422.13b could potentially apply if the cabinets are considered compartments of a control assembly and the receptacles are accessible for connecting portable motor-driven appliances. However, it's important to consider the potential for exposure to moisture and food debris in the kitchen environment. The receptacle should be protected by ground fault circuit interrupters or GFCIs to protect against electrical shock hazards. The cabinet should be constructed of materials that are resistant to corrosion and easy to clean. Scenario 2: a manufacturing facility. In a manufacturing facility, receptacles may be needed inside cabinets to power tools, test equipment, or control devices. In this case, the exception in section 422.13b could potentially apply if the cabinets are considered compartments of a switchboard, panel board, or control assembly and the receptacles are accessible for connecting portable motor-driven appliances. However, it's important to consider the potential for exposure to dust, chemicals, and other industrial contaminants. The receptacle should be rated for the specific voltage and current requirements of the intended equipment. The cabinet should be constructed of materials that are resistant to the specific contaminants present in the environment. Scenario 3: an office building. In an office building, receptacles are less likely to be needed inside cabinets. However, there may be situations where such receptacles are desirable, such as for powering computer equipment or network devices. In this case, the exception in section 422.13b may not apply, as the cabinets are not typically considered compartments of switchboards, panel boards, or control assemblies. However, it may still be possible to install receptacles inside cabinets if they comply with other applicable NEC requirements and are approved by the local authority. The receptacle should be protected by surge suppressors to protect sensitive electronic equipment from voltage spikes. The cabinet should be adequately ventilated to prevent overheating of the equipment inside. In all of these scenarios, it's crucial to prioritize safety and compliance. Always consult with qualified electrical professionals and local authorities to ensure that any installation of receptacles inside cabinets meets all applicable requirements and provides a safe and reliable source of power. The key takeaways from this discussion are: firstly, the NEC does not explicitly address the installation of receptacles inside cabinets for commercial applications, but the exception in section 422.13b provides some guidance. Secondly, the exception in section 422.13b applies to receptacles that are accessible for connecting portable motor-driven appliances in compartments of switchboards, panel boards, or control assemblies. Thirdly, the specific requirements for installing receptacles inside cabinets will depend on the nature of the application, the location of the cabinets, and the applicable codes and regulations. Fourthly, it's crucial to consult with qualified electrical professionals and local authorities to ensure that any installation complies with all applicable requirements and is safe for use. Fifthly, safety should always be the top priority when installing electrical equipment, including receptacles inside cabinets. Let's consider the practical steps involved in determining the permissibility of installing receptacles inside cabinets in a commercial setting. Step 1. Identify the type of cabinet. Determine whether the cabinet in question can be considered a compartment of a switchboard, panel board, or control assembly. This may require consulting with a qualified electrical professional or reviewing the manufacturer's specifications for the cabinet. Step 2. Determine the intended use of the receptacle. Identify the type of appliances or equipment that will be connected to the receptacle. Determine whether these appliances are portable and motor-driven. Step 3. Assess the accessibility of the receptacle. Evaluate whether the receptacle will be readily accessible without requiring disassembly of the cabinet or removal of other components. Step 4. Review applicable codes and regulations. Consult the NEC, local electrical codes, and any other applicable regulations to determine the specific requirements for installing receptacles in the proposed location. Step 5. Consult with local authorities. Contact the local electrical inspector or building department to obtain clarification on any ambiguous code requirements and to ensure that the proposed installation complies with all applicable rules. Step 6. Obtain necessary permits. Apply for and obtain any necessary electrical permits before beginning the installation work. Step 7. Perform the installation. Install the receptacle in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. Ensure that the wiring is properly insulated and protected, that the receptacle is securely mounted, and that the cabinet is properly grounded. Step 8. Inspect and test the installation. Have the installation inspected and tested by a qualified electrical inspector to verify that it complies with all applicable codes and regulations and that it is safe for use. Step 9. Document the installation. Maintain accurate records of all electrical work performed, including the location of the receptacles, the wiring methods used, the ratings of the receptacles, and any other relevant information. Let's now address the common misconceptions about installing receptacles inside cabinets. Misconception 1. It is always permissible to install receptacles inside cabinets if they are protected by GFCIs. While GFCIs provide important protection against electrical shock hazards, they do not necessarily make it permissible to install receptacles in locations where they are otherwise prohibited by the NEC. The NEC sets specific requirements for the location of receptacles, and these requirements must be followed regardless of whether the receptacles are protected by GFCIs. Misconception 2. It is always permissible to install receptacles inside cabinets if they are used to power low-voltage equipment. The NEC does not make an exception for low-voltage equipment when it comes to the location of receptacles. The same requirements apply regardless of the voltage of the equipment being powered. Misconception 3. It is always permissible to install receptacles inside cabinets if they are used to power equipment that is essential for the operation of the business. While it may be desirable to have receptacles inside cabinets for essential equipment, this does not override the requirements of the NEC. The NEC prioritizes safety over convenience, and it sets specific requirements for the location of receptacles to protect against electrical hazards. Misconception 4. It is always permissible to install receptacles inside cabinets if the cabinets are located in a controlled environment. While a controlled environment may reduce the risk of certain electrical hazards, it does not necessarily make it permissible to install receptacles in locations where they are otherwise prohibited by the NEC. The NEC sets specific requirements for the location of receptacles, and these requirements must be followed regardless of the environmental conditions. It is important to debunk these misconceptions and to emphasize the importance of following all applicable codes and regulations when installing receptacles inside cabinets. Ignoring these requirements can lead to serious electrical hazards and potential legal liabilities. Now let's discuss the potential risks associated with installing receptacles inside cabinets. Risk 1. Electrical shock. Installing receptacles inside cabinets can increase the risk of electrical shock if the wiring is not properly insulated or if the receptacle is not properly grounded. This risk is particularly high in damp or wet environments. Risk 2. Fire. Installing receptacles inside cabinets can increase the risk of fire if the wiring is overloaded or if the receptacle is damaged. This risk is particularly high if the cabinet is made of combustible materials. Risk 3. Arc flash. Installing receptacles inside cabinets can increase the risk of arc flash if the receptacle is accidentally short-circuited. Arc flash is a dangerous electrical explosion that can cause serious burns and other injuries. Risk 4. Equipment damage. Installing receptacles inside cabinets can increase the risk of equipment damage if the receptacle is not properly rated for the voltage and current requirements of the equipment being powered. This can lead to overheating, malfunction, and even fire. Risk 5. Code violations. Installing receptacles inside cabinets in violation of the NEC or local electrical codes can result in fines, penalties, and even legal action. It is important to be aware of these potential risks and to take appropriate precautions to mitigate them. This includes using properly insulated wiring, grounding the receptacle correctly, avoiding overloading the wiring, and using receptacles that are rated for the voltage and current requirements of the equipment being powered. Let's delve into the specific requirements of Article 406 of the NEC, which covers receptacles, cord connectors, and attachment plugs. Section 406.3 addresses the general installation requirements for receptacles. It states that receptacles shall be securely mounted and shall be suitable for the environment in which they are installed. This means that the receptacle must be firmly attached to the cabinet and that it must be resistant to moisture, dust, and other environmental factors. Section 406.4 addresses the grounding requirements for receptacles. It states that receptacles shall be grounded in accordance with Article 250 of the NEC. This means that the receptacle must be connected to a grounding electrode system to provide a path for fault current to flow back to the source. Section 406.9 addresses the requirements for receptacles installed in damp or wet locations. It states that receptacles installed in these locations shall be protected by GFCIs. This is to protect against electrical shock hazards in environments where moisture is present. Section 406.11 addresses the requirements for tamper-resistant receptacles. It states that tamper-resistant receptacles shall be installed in dwelling units and in certain other locations where children are likely to be present. This is to prevent children from inserting objects into the receptacle and causing electrical shock. Section 406.12 addresses the requirements for weather-resistant receptacles. It states that weather-resistant receptacles shall be installed in outdoor locations that are exposed to the weather. This is to protect against corrosion and other damage caused by exposure to the elements. These are just a few of the key requirements of Article 406. It is important to review the entire article to ensure that any installation of receptacles inside cabinets complies with all applicable requirements. In summary, when considering the installation of receptacles inside cabinets for commercial applications, several key factors must be carefully evaluated. The NEC does not offer a blanket prohibition but provides an exception under Section 422.13b for specific scenarios involving portable motor-driven appliances within certain enclosures. However, strict adherence to safety protocols, code compliance, and consultation with qualified professionals are paramount. The potential risks associated with such installations, including electrical shock, fire hazards, and equipment damage, must be thoroughly addressed. Moreover, a comprehensive understanding of relevant NEC articles, particularly Article 406 pertaining to receptacles, is essential. By meticulously considering these aspects and prioritizing safety, one can determine the permissibility and ensure the safe and reliable operation of receptacles installed inside cabinets in commercial settings.